Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular afternoon council meeting of Monday, September the 26th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. 1, you can attend council chambers in person. If you wish to do so, please register in advance of the meeting by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca. You can watch the meeting live or recorded. Again, that's on the Summerland YouTube channel, youtube.com, District of Summerland. 3, you can register in advance to speak during the meeting. If you wish to provide comment during the public comment opportunities found under items 6 and 9, you're asked to register in advance by contacting the corporate officer at corporateofficer@summerland.ca with your name, your civic address, and how you will be participating in person, by telephone, or over Zoom. Further details will be provided to you upon registration. And finally, you can request to speak during the meeting. If you have not registered in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities, the opportunity will be given to you if there is time, if time allows. After I've provided everyone who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those in council chambers and those on the conference line. The conference line can be accessed by dialing 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. Corporate Officer, are there any late items to introduce? Okay. So I will ask for adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Thank you. And adoption of the minutes from our last regular afternoon council meeting of August 22nd. Anything in there needs a change, Councillor Van Elfen? Okay, you're making the motion second. Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. Now we come to the first of 2 public comment opportunities. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to comment? I mean, your time is coming up, but if you would like to comment. And do we have anyone that is registered or on the line? Okay. So we will move right along to the first business item, 7.1, the Riga Festival Society, a 2023 grant and aid request.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before I call Trista Bassett up to give a brief overview of the Riga Festival Society's grant and aid application, I thought I'd just summarize the report for council. So the district's annual grant and aid process opens in the fall of each year and is currently open. 2023 applications are due by October 31st. Submitted applications will be compiled and reviewed against the district's grant and aid policy and will be presented to council as part of the 2023 budget deliberations. As in previous years, the Riga Festival Society is requesting pre-approval of 2023 grant and aid funding, as they're hoping to apply for grant funding through the Canada Heritage Grant Program, and the application deadline is October 15th, which is well before when council will see the overall summary of grant and aid applications in January. The total grant and aid request is $7,100 and is consistent with previous years. Staff is seeking council direction on whether this grant and aid request should be approved. And with that, I would like to have Trista come up and speak on behalf of the Riga Festival Society.
Hi, I'm glad you can see me over the podium. I wasn't sure. Thank you for hearing me. I'm very nervous because I'm not a public speaker, and this was supposed to be Jennifer Cockrell, who had a last minute thing and she was not able to attend. Had I known a slideshow was an option, I would have put together some fun pictures of the festival, but I didn't know, so maybe next year. So I just wrote a thing. I hope that's okay. I'm just going to read it. As many of you know, the Riga Arts Festival operates on an annual basis and takes place here in Summerland in the summer. We rely on municipal support, both cash and in kind, to be able to successfully run our festival. Deep breath. Your financial support assists us with venue rentals, supporting local artists by providing honoraria, and assists with box office rentals. In addition, maintaining municipal support is a requirement of the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage federal grant that we receive every year. Looking ahead to 2023, we are hoping to return to more of a community approach, incorporating local and regional talent of the Okanagan and providing artist fees to those who participate. Some of our ideas include a choral group, workshops led by Summerland or South Okanagan local professionals, a family-friendly art, music, theater day at the park, and more. We will also continue to highlight the work of nationally acclaimed Summerland resident George Riga with the aim to keep his legacy alive in the arts here and bring national attention to our town. Your ongoing support will help us continue to evolve alongside the needs and interests of the residents who live here and in our neighboring communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Trista. Does anyone have questions of Trista? All right. Thanks very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to bring forward a motion? Get it on the floor for discussion? Councillor Traynor.
That council pre-approve the 2023 grant and aid request from the Riga Festival Society in the amount of $7,100.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Barkwell. And discussion on this. I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. So the next person we have up, 7.2, is the 2022 Summerland Youth Center Association Grant and Aid Request.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, before I call John Dorn up to the podium, I'll just speak to this briefly. So the district's approved 2022 grant and aid budget was $56,890 and was fully allocated to all applicants at the January 11th Committee of the Whole meeting. The Summerland Youth Center Association has submitted a grant and aid application for $21,500 in order to help fund the replacement of their failed roof, which based on quotes ranges from $62,000 to $79,000. Now, although the 2022 grant and aid budget has been fully allocated, the district currently holds $21,561 in a community contributions reserve account that could be utilized should council wish to approve this application. These funds were donated to the district many years ago by the Summerland Lions Club with the stipulations that it be used to fund a new roof at the youth center. Staff is recommending that the application be supported and that the full amount in the community contributions reserve, being $21,561.80, be transferred to the Summerland Youth Center Association. And Mr. John Dorn is here on behalf of the Summerland Youth Center Association to summarize their request, as is required under our grant and aid policy.
Good afternoon, Council. I didn't really come here to support this grant and aid application, seeing in reality this money was donated by the Lions Club specifically for roof repairs. I wanted to take this opportunity just to let you know that we have applied for a capital grant from the BC Gaming in the neighborhood of $82,000. They will fund 50%. So this 21,000 gives us about another quarter of that, and we're still going to be short about 22,500. And I just wanted to give you a heads up that in the next grant and aid cycle, the youth center will be applying for a grant and aid from the district for that, to make up that shortfall of the 25%. So this will give you the heads up to increase your grant and aid budget for the next year. And I would also like to point out that for those of you who have been around here for a long time, historically, part of that grant and aid money was in the neighborhood of about $20,000 to support the Sadie Youth Program that is no longer being offered since Sadie is no longer operational. Well, that program has moved to the youth center and is now run by the Okanagan Boys and Girls Club. So there is some convoluted justification for giving the youth center a grant and aid to help with the roof. The other point is that the youth center is a secondary secondary emergency shelter in the case of mass evacuation here. And it would be ironic if next year we had another atmospheric river and the evacuees were in the youth center underneath a leaking roof and an internal atmospheric river. I'm open to entertain any questions.
Council, any questions? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
You said you have an application in for $82,000 with the gaming branch. When will that, if you got that full amount, would that cover the roof then?
No, sorry, you have to tell them the amount of your capital project and they will give you 50%. Their timing is they will let the applicants know in November, and there's a time frame of about a year where you have to spend that money.
Okay, now I see. Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. So the time to install rooftop solar is usually when you replace a roof, because then you get the maximum life out of both. And I'm just wondering if that's something you might have looked at and to consider and did the costings and could include in the overall project.
It's an excellent suggestion, Councillor Holmes, but I think the horse has left the barn on that one. Next time.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there's no objection, I'll put the motion on the floor.
I just want to ask one question. We're all aware of the work that the Okanagan Boys and Girls Club is doing with the youth in Summerland, in the Summerland Youth Center. I'm wondering if there might be, and this is just a suggestion, it really doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about so much, but I'm just wondering if there would be a consideration to work with the Boys and Girls Club to do a joint fundraiser, because I think you said 22,000 is the shortfall. 22,000, based on what I know of this generous community, I don't think it would be very hard to raise that amount of money for the youth of Summerland. Just saying, just for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council provide grant and aid funding to the Summerland Youth Center Association in the amount of $21,561.80 to help fund their roof replacement project, and that the entire $21,561.80 be funded through a transfer from the district community contribution reserve account. And further, that staff prepare a bylaw to amend the financial plan 2022-2026, bylaw number 2022-001 to incorporate these changes.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Trainer? Any Councillor Van Elfen?
Just a comment, I want to thank Mr. John Dorn for coming today. I remember, I don't know if it was a long time ago, when Kinsman and Lyons and I believe the credit union and when there was nothing there. And that building was built with joint efforts from service clubs in our community. And you know, I didn't realize there was that much funds been set aside by the Lions Club, and thank you to them. They're no longer here, the Lions Club, but their legacy lives on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, any other comments or anything for discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And none opposed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dorn. Oh, you have something else.
I would like to thank council for the favorable vote, and I would also like to thank them for finally paving my road.
Just had to get that in. You're welcome and you're welcome. All right, 7.3, permissive tax exemption 2023 to 2026, places of worship, amendment bylaw number 2022-035. And this comes from our discussion at our last meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The proposed bylaw in front of council this afternoon is to provide permissive tax exemptions at varying percentages to the Christian and Missionary Alliance, Julia Street Church, and St. John's Lutheran Church. These permissive tax exemptions were discussed by council at the August 22nd council meeting, and the bylaw has been written based on council's direction. If approved, the bylaw will cover the 2023 through 2026 calendar years and provide approximately $90,000 in permissive tax exemptions to the 3 churches over that 4-year period. The statutory deadline that permissive tax exemption bylaws be provided to BC Assessment is October 31st of each year, and only after proper notice has been given. So staff are recommending that council move forward with the first 3 readings of this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Dave? Could I ask someone to bring forward the motion, please? Councillor Holmes?
Then permissive tax exemption 2023-2026, places of worship, amendment bylaw number 2022-035 be read a first, second, and third time.
Councillor Van Elfen is seconding. Any further discussion? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question through our Director of Recreation. I know when we had our last meeting, the pastor of St. John Lutheran Church, I saw that he was in a bit of a conversation with our rec director. I think it was regarding dog parks. And I just wonder if there was any further discussion on that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question through Madam Mayor. Pastor Jeff did reach out to me and said that he was going to be presenting the concept to his building committee and then getting back to me. I have not heard back from him yet. And that's regarding potentially a location for a dog park.
Okay, is there any other further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. That carries unanimously. On to 7.4, permissive tax exemption 2023 to 2025 Fisheries Society, bylaw number 2022-036.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the proposed bylaw is to provide the Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC with a 90% permissive tax exemption on all lands and improvements, excluding the 6 southernmost lots on Gowan Street. If approved, the bylaw will cover the 2023 through 2025 calendar years and will provide approximately $760 in permissive tax exemptions over that 3-year period. Staff are recommending that council move forward with the first 3 readings of this bylaw in order to meet the district's statutory deadlines. And that concludes my report.
Okay, any questions of Dave? Nope. Could I have someone bring forward a motion, please? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That permissive tax exemption 2023-2025 Fisheries Society bylaw number 2022-036 be read a first, second, and third time.
Seconder? Councillor Holmes? Any further discussion on this? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None, so that carries. Okay, 7.5, 2022 capital budget funds for municipal hall HVAC project. And this is for Odessa. Oh. And just before you get started, Odessa, I'm going to go to Councillor Patton.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. After reading Odessa's report and looking at the budget that was allowed for the HVAC at $150,000, and then the request for another $137,000 for 7 rooftop units, I'd like to table this for the time being so that staff can relook into the 7 rooftop replacements for City Hall. It's an outrageous amount of money, and I think that we can look other places to get a better deal for a better bang for our buck. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question for clarification. So what you're saying is it's not a misstep on staff's part. It is a misstep or it's a misstep, say, from the person that, or the group that submitted the proposal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that staff has done their due diligence. I just feel that the dollar value that's coming in for these units far exceeds the true market value of what this work is really worth. And in that regard, I would like to see it tabled so they can go back out to tender, or that staff has an opportunity to maybe reach out again in regards to the costing.
Great, thank you. Okay, so would you, I see the corporate officer, Medley, writing. Did you want to, or did you want to read the request for deferral? Or do you want to just put something forward, Councillor Patton? I mean, more than what you have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If our corporate officer is far more eloquent than I in putting these together, I will follow her lead.
Through the mayor, so we're just postponing or deferring, so we're going to postpone the motion until, can you just say your reason why again?
I believe that the costs coming forward far exceed the market, what's being charged in the marketplace right now for this type of installations.
Councillor Barkwell.
So shouldn't the motion provide direction to staff or instructions to staff to retender the units, and rather than just, end where it's a do again, try over, retender sort of a process? I think we want to make clear, right?
Right, but the matter needs to be deferred before that that component can come into it. It may be something that could be added to this resolution, but for sure the deferral has to be the first mention, right? But good point.
So
We'll just give the corporate officer a minute.
That the motion be deferred. Sorry. That the motion be deferred until a future date, given that the cost of the project has exceeded the market value.
Yes, thank you so much.
And a seconder for that, Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? Councillor Barco, could I have you just turn your mic off for a moment? Thank you. If there's no further discussion on the deferral, I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed? Looking to you again, corporate officer, to talk about the piece that Councillor Barco was mentioning about if we need to direct staff to do the RFP again, or to get some other bidders coming in on the potential project, or if that is just an understanding.
If that is the wish of council, it would be worthwhile to put a motion on the floor to send the project back out to through the request for proposal process.
So it just doesn't get left hanging. Not that Odessa would do that, but just to get it on the record, right? Okay, Councillor Barkle, would you like to make that motion then?
I see Councillor Holmes has some ideas, maybe.
Well, maybe we'll defer to the corporate officer again to write that for us, and then we'll go from there. Once we get it on the floor, then we can discuss it.
So the motion could read that council directs staff to issue a competitive procurement opportunity for the municipal hall HVAC project.
Does that sound good, Councillor Barkwell?
I was sort of thinking, and maybe it's not necessary, but it sounds like staff need to also maybe investigate or reconsider what the exact needs are, and get a deeper explanation the next time around if it is so expensive. But those are just comments. I guess I'll make the motion as read by our corporate officer.
Thank you. Seconder? Okay, I'll second. I'll second so we can get it on the floor. Okay, so now further discussion. Councillor Traynor.
I just have a question. I don't know anything about the cost of HVAC systems, so I'm kind of relying on Councillor Patton to help with this one. But I just had a question. What is BSE? It says BES was hired to develop the drawings for the project and assist with the management and approval.
Through the chair to Councillor Traynor. So BES is Better Energy Solutions. They're a consultant of engineers that we use for a number of our projects. So they were procured to do the engineering drawings, and it's part of the larger program that we work with them to do Fortis BC rebates and grants. So this was a project that was identified in the energy study reports that we did with them. So they were providing us with services that were put under the cost of this project to put those drawings together.
And just a follow up, it says here that that they reviewed the bid and that they said that those costs aligned with current projects across BC. So I'm just wondering if we redo this, do we need to get somebody else to review the bids that come in? Because if they said that the current one that we had was reasonable, then I'm just wondering kind of how this would be different the next time around.
Through the chair to Councillor Trainer. Yes, so we did ask them to do a review of it. And we got a cost breakdown from the one bidder that we received, and they just said it was comparable to other markets that they were seeing or cost estimates. So it could also just be the fact that we are seeing a lot of drastic changes with costs right now. The RFP itself included the installation and provision of the R2 units. So we can also go back to BES and see if we can redefine the RFP and the work required. But yeah, if we only received one bid, and so we weren't able to provide a comparison between the ones that we received, but they were able to do it with other projects that they were working on.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when I read this and how I see it is that the engineering firm had spec'd a rooftop unit or an alternative for an alternate rooftop unit to be replaced. There's no ductwork modifications happening in the building. Basically, it is a rooftop unit being removed and a new rooftop unit being placed, and electrical and gas being tied up to those units again. So when you take a look at the scope of the work, the amount of money that we're looking at our citizens of Summerland to put out, I believe in only having one bidder has left the door open to allow the bid to be substantially higher than what we would have maybe seen if we could have gotten more than one bid in place for the project. So all I'm saying is that I'd like to have it where we can table this just to give the opportunity to get some better pricing coming in. We need the work done. Absolutely we do. Staff has done what they're supposed to do. I think that where we've been let down is that we haven't had the process in regards to getting the correct bid process in that has given us the best bang for our dollar.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes, and then I have a question for you.
I guess the problem I have with the motion that's on the table is that it seems to me a bit that seems a bit too prescriptive. Seems like we're prescribing the process, whereas I think I'd like to see perhaps a motion more that we ask staff to look at the options of different alternatives that might be possible, whether that's to reduce the scope and if they decide that we should put it out to tender again, then that's fine. They can come back with us with that. But I just would prefer to see a motion that's a bit less prescriptive and just to ask staff to look at it again.
Okay, we'll revisit that once we have the vote here on what's on the floor right now. Councillor Barkwell.
With what Councillor Holmes has in mind, perhaps we could ask the corporate officer to read the motion again. I thought it was pretty general. Could you?
Was that council direct staff to issue a competitive procurement opportunity for the municipal hall HVAC project?
Okay, thanks. And I have a question. I'm trying to follow the budget discrepancies really big between the two buildings. Is that because you weren't really sure which units were good and which units were not to begin with, or why is the Public Works building and 100,000 under budget and the municipal hall 100,000 over? Yeah.
Through the chair, that is a very good question. So the original budget for the Public Works HVAC was based off of 3 phases, and it was anticipated that there were going to be additional building code upgrades required, and it ended up that we didn't need it. So they did budget more in anticipation of those extra costs. However, as we saw, we don't actually require that full 172,000. So that's the plan, was to use that leftover for the municipal hall.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question of you, but I'm sure that our Director of Infrastructure can help with this as well. And it's a bit of a crystal ball kind of question, and that is, if we're looking at the costing in September of 2022 and the potential to defer this and get a more competitive process where you have more people bidding, let's say that gets finished in the first quarter of 2023. Do you expect that there would be any lowering of the cost? I mean, not above and beyond what the bid that we got now, but I mean generally in the sense of costs are starting to come down. I think you mentioned that, Councillor Patton. Do either of you think that it would be, substantially different?
Sure, I can comment on that, Madam Mayor. I think if we do go back for another tender period or something like that, I think it would be in our best interest to try and call every single supplier in the valley. We usually get in touch with the usual suspects, but I think there might be some more out there that potentially we could try to get in touch with. They're all, from my understanding, they're all extremely busy right now. So some of them just didn't have time to put it together. And maybe as we're going into sort of the winter period, maybe if we can get at least a couple more bids, it would be able to provide us with a better idea of what the actual value is of putting these in right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I couldn't agree more with our director. I think that as we move in, I think we're going to find going now into our shoulder seasons that there'll be more interest in regards to bringing up work into the springtime. I think one of the things too that I was talking with our director about was there is probably going to be about a 26-week lead time just getting these units. So they're still 6 months away. So no matter what happens, even prolonging this until to get more bids, we won't be hurting ourselves because we wouldn't be able to get the product anyways. Thank you.
Great, that's a good point. Okay, any other points for discussion or questions? I'll call the question then. All in favor? And opposed? Councillor Holmes is opposed. Thank you, that carries. Thank you for your outside knowledge, bringing that into the council table, Councillor Patton. Appreciate that. Oh, look at that. We have, I don't think do we need a break? Council, we're good. We're way ahead of schedule, so let's take advantage of that. 7.7, thank you, Odessa. 7.7, Summerland Curling Club License of Occupation for 8820 Jubilee Road East, 2022 to 2027. Dana.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. So the first of a few reports related to licenses of occupation or leases today. This one is requesting that Council approve a license of occupation with the Summerland Curling Club for the curling club portion of the Summerland Arena. The Summerland Curling Club has been operating out of the curling club portion of the arena since 1974. I understand that we have been extending them a license of occupation for this in some form or another since that time. The proposed license of occupation is for a 5-year period starting on October 1st to cover 5 curling seasons with an option to renew for 5 additional years. Their previous license of occupation was for a period of 3 years, but we've recently been standardizing with our license of occupations and leases and generally recommending a 5-year initial period with a 5-year renewal period. So permitted uses for the license area would include curling, educational and social activities related to curling, and operational activities related to the administration of the curling club. The license of occupation is a license of occupation is recommended to outline the terms and conditions of the license. And a license of occupation doesn't grant exclusive use of the property, unlike a lease, and it doesn't grant any interest in the property itself, and therefore it's not considered a disposal of property like a sale or lease, and doesn't require public notification in accordance to the community charter. In terms of license fee, the curling club and staff have agreed on an annual increase of 2.5% for the first 3 years, followed by increases of 3% for years 4 and 5. The license fee would be renegotiated for a renewal term if we decide to move forward with that. And that's it for my portion of the report. Did anyone have any questions?
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The license for occupation fees that we're moving into, how close are they? Are they very similar to what the curling club has been paying previously?
Through the chair, good question. So the 2022-2023 season fee represents an increase of 2.5% from last year.
Thank you.
And I have a question. I think maybe it's for Lori, but maybe Dana, you can answer this as well, or Graham. And that is, we heard the update this morning about the situation, the assessment for the arena. I'm wondering how the arena works, maybe not at all, but I'm just wondering if the upgrades that need to be done on the arena, say for the next 5 years, if that will impact the curling club, participation by the curling club in that area of the arena.
So I can speak to that a bit, and then if Lori has anything to add, we can pass the floor to her. But the license of occupation does contain some language in it specifically around a case of disruption in case we are doing work and they aren't able to have full use of the curling club area. So if, for example, while we're doing a chiller replacement or possibly any other projects that could impact their use of the space, we would be issuing them a refund on a prorated basis for their loss of the use of that space.
Good, thank you. Anything else to add, Lori?
Just that the chiller replacement is slated for the springtime, and that would not impact the curling club operations at that time during our annual shutdown, should it proceed at that time.
Okay, that's great. So there is provision for that. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Dana? Would someone like to bring this to the floor? Thank you, Councillor Patton.
That council approve the license of occupation agreement with the Summerland Curling Club for the curling club portion of the Summerland Arena and Curling Club located at 8820 Jubilee Road East, as included as attachment 1 to the Summerland Curling Club license of occupation for 8820 Jubilee Road East, 2022 to 2027. Report from the Manager of Procurement and Contract Administration dated September 26, 2022, and that the Mayor and Corporate Officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation with the Summerland Curling Club on behalf of Council.
Thank you, Councillor Patton. Seconder? Councillor Van Elf. Any further discussion? All in favor? And none opposed. Thank you, Council. On to 7.8, license of occupation to provide a daycare facility with parking at 9521/9525 Orton Street.
Hello. So the request of this report is to receive approval from council for a license of occupation agreement with
Dana,
109.
could I just ask you to move your, just for people that are on Zoom? Thank you.
Sure. Can you hear me better now? Okay. So the purpose of this report is to request approval from council for the license of occupation agreement with 109-5169 BC Limited to provide parking for municipally owned, on a municipally owned property at 9521, 9525 Wharton Street. That's where the museum and Arts and Cultural Center are, for a group licensed childcare center that will be located at 12809 Kelly Avenue. So Broad Street Properties is the beneficial owner of 12809 Kelly Avenue. The building is in the title. The registered owner of the building is 109-5169 BC Limited. So it's a numbered company that is, I think, essentially in the care and control of Broad Street. Broad Street is in the process of negotiating a lease agreement, or has just signed a lease agreement with a new licensed group childcare center that would be located at 12809 Kelly Ave. And they were looking for solutions in order to provide 8 parking stalls for the daycare use, which is a requirement under our zoning bylaw. So there's a public parking lot on the same property as the Arts and Cultural Center and the Museum and Archives that is directly adjacent to 12809 Kelly Avenue. And as part of our zoning bylaw, allows for parking stalls to be located on adjacent parcels of land. And so staff and Broad Street worked together to come up with a solution where Broad Street would be paying for some upgrades to that public parking area in exchange for non-exclusive use of 8 stalls during the daycare's operational hours. And they would have priority use during daytime hours, but not exclusive use. And then the parking lot would also be expanded to include additional stalls for evenings and weekends for public use or for the use of the Museum and Archives and the Arts and Cultural Center. So the tentative agreement that we've been working on is that the numbered company would pay for the required upgrades at an estimated cost of approximately $22,000. And the Summerland Arts and Cultural Center and the Museum and Archives Society have both been consulted with respect to the arrangement. And the leaseholders will be benefiting from the improved parking facilities. It will also address some drainage issues in the parking lot and adjacent area beside the museum that it's caused water to pool alongside the museum building. So staff are recommending a license of occupation to outline the terms related to the license and the use of the parking space, as well as the required insurance that we would require from the numbered company. The license of occupation wouldn't grant exclusive use of the property or any interest in the property itself. So again, we wouldn't need to do a notice of disposal, such as how we would with a sale or a lease. We don't require public notification. And therefore, we recommend supporting the license of occupation to facilitate the creation of an additional 40 childcare spaces in Summerland, while also improving and expanding the parking lot area. And just want to note that if the license of occupation isn't supported by council, Broad Street Properties will need to explore other options in order to meet the parking requirements under our zoning bylaw, which might include requesting a variance. And that's it for my report, if anyone has questions.
Thank you, Dana. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. So this would be for 5 years?
Correct.
Correct. And so what would happen if there was a change of use, if it wasn't a daycare anymore? Would it be transferred automatically to the new use, or would the agreement be null and void?
Good question. The license of occupation does specifically address that. So if the daycare use was to cease for that space, the license of occupation would be null and void.
Councillor Traynor.
Do we know, does that parking lot get used a lot right now? Like, is it full very often?
My understanding is that it does not get used very much. During the daytime hours, it is a few staff from the museum and maybe one staff person from the Arts and Cultural Center that use that space during the daytime hours.
Okay, and then the second question was, would there be a sign that goes up in there that says, like, I know they don't get exclusive use of it, but would there be a sign that says, and kind of how would that be monitored so that there's guaranteed eight stalls if they need them?
Part of the license of occupation is that the numbered company or Broad Street will be paying for associated signs as well. So right now we have some signs that reserve certain stalls for the use of the museum and certain stalls for the Arts and Cultural Center. There'd be a little bit of a shuffle and some of the museum stalls would move to the new paved location. And the numbered company or Broad Street would be paying to move those signs and put up new signs that have indicate that it's priority use for the daycare and during which hours on weekdays, excluding statutory holidays. And I believe there would also be an additional sign directing people to that back parking lot as part of that plan.
Okay, any other questions? Graham, do you have a question?
Not a question, a comment. I could change my inflection at the end to make it sound like a question. I just wanted to say, and obviously I signed off on the advice, I support it, but some great innovative work and a quick basis here on the part of staff to try to find a way forward. It's a real need in the community, these daycare spaces. And I think they found the right way and also set up all the pieces, had those consultations and did that negotiation with Broad Street to see a successful option, at least for council's consideration. So thanks to their good work on this.
And on behalf of council, I would like to thank you for passing along the information that we got from the Minister of State for Childcare at UBCM about the funding opportunity to lower the cost per child for each of those units as well. Not just for that childcare center, but for any of them in Summerland or in houses, provided their license. So that I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. That gives us, what, 40% or so of what we need by next year in Summerland, according to our assessment. All right, so I will call the question. All in favor? Oh, did we have the motion? We don't have the motion on the floor yet. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That council approved the license of occupation agreement with 1095169 BC Limited to provide parking on municipally owned property located at 9521 and 9225 Wharton Street for a group licensed child care center located at 12809 Kelly Avenue, as included as attachment 1 to the license of occupation to provide child care center with parking at 9521-9525 Wharton Street. Report from the Manager of Procurement Contract Administration dated September 26, 2022, and that the Mayor and Corporate Officer be authorized to execute the license of occupation with the 1095169 BC Limited on behalf of Council.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Seconder, Councillor Patton. Now, further discussion. Councillor Van Elfen.
Just want to comment to our CEO, Madam Mayor, a few phone calls back and forth, and I too want to say thank you so much for the innovative approach that your staff has taken to make this come forward. It's a much needed service in the community, and I know staff was definitely thinking out of the box on this one, and I appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Call the question. I'm losing my voice. All in favor? And none opposed. Thank you. Dana, just one more. 7.9, Summerland Youth Center Association lease for 9111 Peach Orchard Road.
So the purpose of this report is to request approval for a new lease with the Summerland Youth Center Association at 9111 Peach Orchard Road. A little bit of history. In 1993, the Summerland Youth Center Association entered into a 25-year lease with the District of Summerland for a portion of the lands located at 9111 Peach Orchard Road. They paid for and arranged for the construction of a building at that location for the purpose of providing a youth center for the community of Summerland. The term of that lease ended on September 30th, 2018, and a new lease was not drawn up, but the lease has remained valid on a holding over clause, so sort of renewing on a month-to-month basis. It's best practice to have an active lease, and we recommend drafting a new lease on our current lease agreement templates. So we have prepared a new lease with a 5-year term to commence on November 1st, 2022 and expire on actually October 30th, 2027, with an option to renew the agreement for 5 additional years. In accordance with Section 26 of the Community Charter, we will publish a notice of intention to lease the premises and also to provide assistance to the Summerland Youth Center Association, to lease it for less than market value. As with the previous lease, the annual fee for the proposed lease is $1 per year. However, noting that we separate to the lease do provide some grant and aid to them, such as the request you heard earlier today. A few notes from our Director of Financial Services in the report are that the Summerland Youth Center is an occupier of municipal lands. Their lease is required to be registered with the BC Assessment Authority. However, in the past, Council has provided the Summerland Youth Center Association with a 100% permissive tax exemption. And that concludes my report, if anyone has questions.
All right, questions, anyone? Could someone bring forward the lease arrangement, please? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That council approve the lease agreement with the Summerland Youth Center Association for a portion of the 9111 Peach Orchard Road property as included as attachment 1 to the Summerland Youth Center Association lease for 9111 Peach Orchard Road, lease from the Manager of Procurement and Contract Administration dated September 26, 2022, and that the following statutory notice to the public, the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the lease with the Summerland Youth Center Association on behalf of council.
Seconder. Councillor Carlson. Any further discussion on this? Call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. Thank you, Dana. 7.10, Eisentalk Spillway Grant Application. And I guess this is for Jeremy. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is to apply for a grant for the Eisentalk Spillway widening. It's for $1,939,590. Just a quick summary there. The Eisentalk Dam does not meet the minimum requirements of the Dam Safety Association. Although the probability of Eisentalk Dam overtopping is considered low, the consequence of the scenario is very high. And the dam consequence for this particular dam was raised to very high during the last dam safety review. And thus we need to widen the spillway to protect that asset. The spillway has become deteriorated and requires replacement, and augmenting its capacity further reduces the potential of dam overtopping. This grant is to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund. And the grant application is due at the end of this week, and we have all of our documentation ready to go for that. And we need our council resolution to support that in order to apply.
Good. Thanks for bringing this forward in a timely manner. Any questions of Jeremy or any staff? All right. Could someone bring this forward? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That staff be directed to prepare and submit a grant application in the amount of $1,939,590 to UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund for the Eisentalk Spillway Upgrade Project, and that the Director of Utilities provide overall grant management for the Eisentalk Spillway Upgrade Project.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Patton? Any further discussion? Councillor Barkwell?
Maybe this would be directed towards Jeremy, but if the, long before the dam became overtopped, wouldn't the water spill to the south towards Headley? When we spoke about raising the dam and such, they were going to have to build a weir. So it doesn't seem to me that, or maybe to put it another way, the flow to the south to Headley acts as a sort of a natural spillway for any raise of dam and would take the pressure off of, say blockages at our current spillway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Devin's on the line too. If he can maybe add to what I'm going to say. So I would need to check with dam safety, but I would suggest and I would think that for the extra water to go through a different water course would be a problem for dam safety. So we'd have to check on that, and Devin may have some more background on it. But the spillway size is a direct requirement of the consequence classification of the dam. And when we did the consequence classification study, I think it was 2 years ago, it identified that this spillway needed to be widened. Devin, do you have anything to expand on that?
No, I guess I don't know the exact elevation difference between what Mr. Barkwell is talking about in relation to the spillway. But typically, as you're well aware, a spillway is required at the location of the dam. And this one, even prior to it becoming a very high consequence classification dam, even at a high level, it was still, it still didn't meet dam safety requirements. So it's been on the books for a while, as well as the outlet pipe that we just completed. So it's a good question and one worth maybe looking into, but I don't think we've done a ton of research as to what elevation that was at on the backside.
Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, my understanding from the last presentation we had that they now have very accurate LIDAR data of the elevations. Mm-hmm. So with that sort of question in mind, it might not have been sort of examined that way. And I'd certainly feel more comfortable if that was considered before we spent $1 million on expanding the spillway. Because I think it's a real possibility if, as the water got to any height, it would start going the other way. Yeah, which would be a problem maybe for Headley.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, and through the mayor. We'll double back and check on that. I suspect it was covered during the consequence classification study. They would have looked at all those things, but we'll go back and make sure that all the T's were crossed and I's dotted on that topic, and maybe we can get a message back to council on that. For today, it's likely prudent to still look at applying for this grant. And it's something we can always cancel if we didn't have to do any work on that spillway, but we likely will need to anyway. The scope of work for this project includes work past the spillway itself, so down where the water goes over the spillway and then down towards the creek. So we need to remove a whole bunch of vegetation there and do some riprap. And so the scope is more than just the concrete structure there anyway. As Devin said, there is some dam safety items that we need to address there still.
Okay, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Jeremy. I agree that we should, we can look at other aspects, but I think if there's a time, if this grant application is of essence, that we need to move on it. My question, though, is this 100% grant funding, or is there a portion that is going to be paid out by the district?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, in the council report, it states that the funding is 100% funding up to $2 million. And so if this project was to, say, go over the amount that we were requesting, we'd likely have to pay out of pocket for that. The budget has been vested by consultant, and through Devin and I, we feel very comfortable with it. So we expect that it'll be 100% funded.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't read past the discussion part. Thanks so much.
Great. Councillor Barkwell.
I'm guilty of the same thing. I was thinking, oh yeah, what was the percentage covered? Because you don't often see 100%.
No.
So at 100% coverage, well, you know, we can't really lose, but maybe there's other works too that need to be done at some of our other dams. Perhaps that same project or that same fund could do work for Eneas where, you know, there's some concerns or something.
Garnet is another one.
Garnet, yeah. So, all right, thanks.
Okay. Can we get this on the floor then, please? Oh boy, I should start writing this down. So is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, David and Joe. Kendra, do we have anyone waiting to speak with us? No. All right, so we will have the resolution to close the meeting to the public, and then we'll take a break. Councillor Holmes and Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Thank you.